Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here. Has proper legal notice been given of the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the vacation of the first 15-foot wide east-west and north-south alley south of Hillside Avenue between North Claremont Avenue and Bel Air Avenue and extending to the south flat line of Water Park Edition was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto are true and correct copies of the legal notices published on April 18 and 25th, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
Good evening, everyone. The applicant is requesting a vacation of alleys at 2251 Hillside Avenue for a residential development. The rezoning for site was approved by City Commission in November last year. The alley is not in use as an access, and vacating the alleys will make the parcel ready for development. Return reports from city staff state no objections and recommend approval. Return reports from utility companies recommend approval, as Columbia Gas and Ohio Edison have no facilities within the alleys. AT&T commented that there is no objection to the above request. AT&T will reserve the easement and or right-of-way rights in the alley to be vacated. AT&T has aerial cable and terminals to be serviced as needed. Any change to existing structure would be billable to the requesting party. The request was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns received from the neighbors at the meeting. Thank you.
Yes.
Were there any complaints received after the hearings?
No.
No. So we have no complaints, period.
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to this matter? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Sorry, my computer is a little slower than I'd like it to be. Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Do we have to wait till 6:50 or can we go?
I believe we're supposed to wait.
Okay. Shouldn't be so quick.
Does anybody have a jaunty tune?
Is this about previous hearing, Clay?
Always. Guys, move
We
on.
did close.
Oh, you closed. I
Yeah.
was just
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Listen to a jaunty tune. Taps on your shoes, Rob?
The hearing scheduled for 6:50 is called to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here,
Mr.
here.
Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Has proper legal been given of this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for approximately 10.95 acres located at Auburn Avenue and Ohio Avenue from Springfield Township R1 Residential District to City EC1 Educational Campus District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on April 17, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
The subject parcels, a total of 5 as shown on slide highlighted in yellow, were annexed into the city in 2007 and have retained their township residential zoning district. The applicant is requesting to rezone subject parcels from township residential zoning to city educational campus zoning. The applicant wishes to rezone to make use of subject parcels for permitted educational purposes as listed in city EC1 zoning district and avoid limitations of township R1 zone for any future proposals on campus. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as an institutional campus. The requested zoning district EC1 will allow for establishing appropriate areas within the campus to be used for academic and related purposes, including the recreation and housing of students and guests of the college. The surrounding land uses are mostly comprising of residential and educational uses, which are compatible with the proposed zoning district. Return reports from city staff state no objections and recommend approval. The request was recommended for approval by City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns from the neighbors at the meeting. Thank you.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
Have you received any complaints after all the hearing?
And no, there were no.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. So now we have to wait till 6:55. We're going through these quickly.
I know. Very efficient night.
Hear you.
Hearing scheduled for 6:55 is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here. Has proper legal notice been given of this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for approximately 74.6 acres located at 570 East Level Lane from Springfield Township R1 Residential District to City EC1 Educational Campus District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on April 17, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
In continuation with previous requests, the applicant is requesting that the remainder of college campus parcels be zoned from township residential to city educational campus. Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area for these 5 parcels to be institutional campus. The surrounding land uses are compatible with the proposed zoning. Since the campus spans over both City Planning Board and CEDA Regional Planning Commission areas, the requests were presented to both planning bodies. Return reports from city staff state and recommend approval of applicant's request to rezone subject parcels from R1 to EC1. The total parcels and their extent is shown on slide. The CEDA Regional Planning Commission recommended approval of applicant's request, and there were no questions or concerns from the neighbors. Thank you.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
Did you receive any concerns or complaints after all the hearings have been held?
No complaints.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience want to speak to this matter? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Yeah. We have a proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor Copeland. Wish to read the following proclamation on behalf of the city of Springfield, Ohio. Whereas the area that someone lives in plays a significant role in their overall health and well-being, their surroundings can impact if, how, and when a person's needs are met, which in turn affects mental health. And whereas having safe, stable, and healthy home conditions sets the foundation for achieving and maintaining good mental health. And whereas with early and effective intervention, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full productive lives. And now, therefore, I, Warren R. Copeland, Mayor of the City of Springfield, Ohio, and President of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Month in Springfield, and urge our citizens to increase their awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. And accepting this is John Lawson from the Mental Health and Recovery Board. John, would you care to make a few comments?
I would. Thank you so much. Hello, Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is John Lawson. I'm here with my colleague, Jennifer Brown. I'm a licensed social worker, and I have been the Assistant Director at the Mental Health Recovery Board serving Clark, Greene, and Madison counties for over a year now. I also recently relocated to Springfield from Dayton, purchasing a home not too far from here on Cape Cod Drive. Thank you so much for recognizing this important health issue that affects everyone. Mental health as well as substance use concerns are common, affecting 1 in 5 people over the course of their lifetime. But research shows that most people respond well to receiving supportive services and appropriate treatment. As a local administrative entity, our board is tasked with planning, funding, and monitoring quality behavioral health care services for the residents of Springfield and in Clark County. However, everyone has a role in creating a healthy community by learning more about local resources and by being that supportive friend or colleague that assists someone who is having a behavioral health concern. Thank you again for recognizing this important issue. And our CEO, Dr. Greta Mayer, sends her regrets for not being able to be here this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawson, if you would like to step down here, we'd like to get pictures of you and your
Jennifer?
colleague, and we can get started.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay, we're on time for the city commission meeting. Meeting is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Here,
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, we are so grateful for the opportunity to practice democracy. We are aware that this is not true throughout the world, and we are lucky to have the opportunity here to do it here in Springfield. Help us to do it well this evening and make decisions good for this community. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance. Flag. United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. Motion to approve the minutes.
so move.
Seconded. Questions or comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes,
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings.
Vacating the first 15-foot wide east-west and north-south alleys south of Hillside Avenue between North Claremont Avenue and Bel Air Avenue and extending to the south flat line of Water Park Addition. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning approximately 10.95 acres located at Auburn Avenue and Ohio Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from Springfield Township R1 Residential District to City EC1 Educational Campus District. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning approximately 74.6 acres located at 570 East Leffel Lane, Springfield, Ohio, from Springfield Township R1 Residential District to City EC1 Educational Campus District. Authorizing the annexation of a city-owned parcel at 3925 South Charleston Pike to the City of Springfield, Ohio, and authorizing Jason T. Irick, Assistant City Law Director, to prosecute the proceedings necessary to effect the annexation. Authorizing a contribution to Kiwanis Club of Springfield, Ohio, in the amount of $5,000 to support the Springfield Blues and Jazz Festival. Authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for monthly access fees for marked radio communication system equipment from the Ohio Department of Administrative Services, Office of Information Technology, for an amount not to exceed $165,600 for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperative agreement for construction of county water project for the Board of County Commissioners of Clark County, Ohio, the county, relating to the extension of the Northridge Waterline Loop. authorizing the sale of real property located on East Main Street to Jose Salas.
Any questions or comments on first reading?
Just like to thank the Kiwanis Club for putting on the Springfield Blues and Jazz Festival. Last year was the first one, and it got off to a dynamite start. I want to thank the club for putting this event together. Good for Springfield.
Yes. Anyone else? Clerk will proceed with second readings.
Pending ordinance number 9190, passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing certain sections of Chapter 931 entitled Public Infrastructure Improvements and Chapter 1211 entitled Improvement Standard Specification.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
As I understand this will make it easier to do business in Springfield. We've updated code, made it a little easier to do business.
Correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of 4 Ford Police Interceptors of the newest model year available from National Auto Fleet Group for an amount not to exceed $200,284.52 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Approving and authorizing the execution of an infrastructure agreement for the development and financing of public improvements for the Melody Park project.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Was wondering if someone on staff might give us a little more information.
Yes, Commissioners, this is related to the project out on the east side of our community called Melody Parks, comprised partly of the former Melody Drive-In site. This is the mixed-use development of retail, restaurant, market rate apartments, patio homes, and single-family developable lots. And so this infrastructure agreement lays out specifically the improvements that come as part of phase one of the project, but then also lays out some funding mechanisms relative to TIF and other CRAs and so forth that will be eligible to be utilized as part of the project itself.
And the beauty of this is the infrastructure that will be put in place will meet city expectations and code, unlike some of the previous development had 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, this lays out the requirements based off of our subdivision regulations as well as our construction and engineering specifications.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with American Structure Point Incorporated for engineering services for the elevated water tank improvements and recoding project at the water treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $55,400.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an amendment number 9 to the agreement for professional engineering consulting services between the city and Strand Associates Incorporated in connection with the combined sewer overflow long-term control plan to extend the completion date to December 31, 2023.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing a contribution to Springfield Promise Neighborhood in the amount of $1,000 to support the South Side and Bloom Garden Tour.
So
Move to adopt.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? I think this is a great thing to support. We're glad to do it.
certainly love to see anything that goes on with Promise Neighborhood.
Anyone in the audience want to speak to this? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
I abstain because I have a conflict of interest.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Aztec Systems LLC, a Trimble company, for a period of 5 years for the purchase of an online CityWorks asset management system as part of the new enterprise resource planning system for an amount not to exceed $372,865.35 for the 5-year term and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I'm wondering what this will allow us to do that we cannot do at present.
Yes, Commissioner. So with CityWorks, we are able to fully integrate with the Oracle solution that we've selected for the overall enterprise resource planning project, but it automates things. It's more GIS centric for things like work orders and tracking of inventory, like meters and things like that.
Great. Sounds great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners?
And so, Katie, what exactly does that mean for the community? Like, how does that help us, as citizens? Because we can hear all those things kind of thrown around. And it's like, okay, well, what meters and where and how and all those good things.
With it being more automated and
Sure.
us having those inventories like at hand versus all of the manual work that goes in now with the GIS system. And I don't want to put Mr. Moore on the spot, but he may be able to, this impact him in his area a lot with the tracking of inventories and work orders and that overall GIS overlay.
Again,
Or-
part of our system is tied, like our report of a concern currently goes into a software database that allows us to answer and respond to those report of concern items. This will be integrated with that feature. So again, that we can respond to those work orders in a timely and efficient manner for the residents. So that's the interface that the residents will see. And again, just having better asset management in terms of the assets that we maintain out in the community is important for us.
Sure. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with App Architecture LLC for the design of a new fire station to be located on South Limestone Street to increase the agreement for an amount not to exceed $10,898 for a total amount not to exceed $360,898 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with App Architecture LLC for the design of 3 new fire stations to increase the agreement for an amount not to exceed $8,790 for a total amount not to exceed $886,790 and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the parking management agreement with Reef Parking, formerly known as Republic Parking System, LLC, for a downtown parking management services to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $8,995 for a total amount not to exceed $121,563 and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a 2023-2024 Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant in an amount up to $26,670.90 and a 2023-2024 Impaired Driving Enforcement Program grant in an amount up to $25,170.90 from the Ohio Department of Public Safety, Governor's Highway Safety Office, to reimburse salaries and certain fringe benefits of officers assigned to special overtime projects, authorizing the city manager, finance director, law director, and chief of police to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant, and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements, and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I just have a question. Can we, if we are able to, can we talk about some of the special overtime projects that we'll be doing, if that's allowable?
Yeah, certainly. I'll have Chief Elliott speak to that.
Thank you. Always welcoming to hear Chief Elliott.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Copeland Commission. So this would allow for grant funding to assist with additional traffic enforcement, so impaired driving, specific speed complaints, any traffic complaints that we're seeing. And where it really helps us out as an organization and as a city is it doesn't tax the officers who are taking the calls for service, so it will allow for additional funding, so that doesn't affect how officers respond to calls for service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
While
it.
you're there, Chief, are these programs that happen on an annual basis, or is this something that comes along every handful of years?
So we do try to petition for it or apply for it each year and to allow for us to have some of that additional assistance. And we try to continue it throughout the year and spread it throughout. So it's, not just focused one specific time of the year.
Thank you.
Else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the release of easements in relation to the property located within the vacated alley North Madison Avenue from Limestone Street west to the first intersecting north-south alley and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with A&B Asphalt Corporation for the Fountain Avenue paving Phase 1 project for an amount not to exceed $797,403.60 and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Shelley Company for the Eagle City Road paving Phase 2 project for an amount not to exceed $599,977.34 and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the contract with Tony Smith doing business as Tony Smith Wrecking and Trucking for demolition services to increase the contract at an amount not to exceed $30,000 for a total amount not to exceed $550,000, confirming and approving related expenditures from May 15, 2023 2023 to the passage of this ordinance and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a home development, single-family new construction loan agreement, home program funded construction, 724 Clifton Avenue, with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated for the development of development of the 724 Clifton Avenue property, authorizing the conveyance of the real property located at 724 Clifton Avenue, the Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I was wondering if the staff could give the public a little more information about not only what we're doing on this item, Brian, but on item 150-23 and 151-23, all relate to development on Clifton Ave.
Yes, Commission. I will ask Community Development Director Shannon Meadows to talk about this project, and then I know the developer is also here as well.
Absolutely. If I could ask Greg to join me, I will give you a brief overview. We are back to our Community Housing Development Organization investments after our COVID hiatus. And Neighborhood Housing Partnership will be joining us to add 3 more single-family affordable houses to the Clifton Court project that's located behind the Dome. A couple rundowns, we will use Home Program and Chodo dollars, and the home buyers will enjoy the 15% CRA tax abatement at the end of the day. To tell you how it's going to happen, I'll pass it off to Greg.
Greg Womack, Neighborhood Housing Partnership at 527 East Home Road and 629 South Centers. We're very excited. We have constructed and found a buyer for and created a new home buyer for single-family homes on Clifton Avenue for several years, over 10 years. We were ready to start again. COVID came. We kind of had to wait a little while and focus on more important things. Thank you, Shannon, for doing that. But we're now excited to get rolling again. Construction costs are up a little. The plan will be to build based on this project cost or this pro forma. Then the sale proceeds will come back to the city, almost like a revolving loan fund back into the home funds. The importance of this is probably obvious to you all, but I'm just going to say it anyway. We believe in creating home ownership. We're not anti-rental. We have 12 senior rentals, City View Apartments at Drexel. We're co-developing community gardens and community gardens too. But we believe in home ownership because home ownership creates equity, it creates wealth, it changes families from sometimes even generational poverty into a situation where they begin to have wealth because their homes appraise. The last 3 homes that we built, I just want to share quickly. Back in 2018, it appraised and sold for $90,000. In 2020, $93,000. These are all the same size houses, a little over 1,400 square feet. And then in 21, $98,000. These homes now appraise on the county auditor site for about $130,000. That's why we're certainly thankful for your support. I'll answer any other questions you have, but again, thank you very much for your willingness.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a home development, single-family new construction loan agreement, home program funded construction, 734 Clifton Avenue home program, with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated for the development of the 734 Clifton Avenue property, authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 734 Clifton Avenue, Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? The audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a home development, single-family new construction loan agreement, home program funded construction, 742 Clifton Avenue home with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated for the development of the 742 Clifton Avenue property, authorizing the conveyance of the real property located at 742 Clifton Avenue, the Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an option contract for purchase of real estate with RL8 Partners Incorporated for the sale of 541 Fair Street, owned by the city and no longer needed for municipal purposes, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I was wondering if staff might give us some additional information, not only about this item, but similar item 153-23 and 154-23.
Yes, Commission. I'll ask Steve Thompson, our Deputy Director of Community Development, to respond to that.
Good evening, Commissioners. So this first option for 541 Fair Street, this is a parcel the city recently acquired from the land bank. And the intent here is to develop multifamily housing in partnership with RL8 Partners. In June, the City Commission will be hearing a rezoning application for this parcel. So that one is for multifamily housing. The other two options on Southern Avenue, both of those will be developed as duplex housing. All of this is the intent to create more affordable housing in that area of the city.
Thank you, and I'm just very pleased to see us now moving forward on housing. Without a doubt, the pandemic slowed us down, but it, if anything, increased the need, unfortunately. So our ability to attract, and in this case, inspire and partner with others to build housing is critically important for the well-being of our city. So very pleased to see all of this attention to housing on the agenda.
Do you know what type of housing yet? I know that you said duplex, or would it be more like condos or?
Sure. So right now, the intent on 541 Fair Street, along with surrounding parcels, that will be multifamily housing. At this point, the developer is looking at a 30-unit multifamily development.
apartment?
It'll be about 3 stories.
Okay.
The developer, in conjunction with the city, we've worked with neighbors along Fair Street to make sure the housing works and fits in with the neighborhood, and
Sure.
also takes into account how they intend to continue using their single-family properties in the area.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes,
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an option contract for purchase of real estate with RL8 Partners Incorporated for the sale of 237-239 East Southern Avenue, owned by the city and no longer needed for municipal purposes, and declaring an emergency therein.
so moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes,
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an option contract for purchase of real estate with RL8 Partners Incorporated for the sale of 128 East Southern Avenue, owned by the city and no longer needed for municipal purposes, and declaring an emergency therein.
so moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? The audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes,
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to submit the 2023 action plan of the city of Springfield, Ohio to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement, operate, and administer the city's Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and Home Program for the 2023 fiscal year, April 1, 2023 to March 31, 2024, and declaring an emergency therein.
I'll move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I was wondering if the staff might give us a quick overview. I know this is a very complex submission, but maybe a high altitude look at what's exactly in this.
Yeah, I'll have Shannon Meadows come back up, but this is relative to our CDBG home and ESG dollars, so our entitlement funds that we receive from the federal government. But Shannon can lay out why the action plan and what that means.
Absolutely. So an annual action plan lays out how the community will invest the entitlement dollars in low and moderate income areas and with low and moderate income individuals throughout the community. The theme of this action plan this year is infrastructure and housing. We will be proposing to invest in public facilities and public infrastructure. One of the items that was on the agenda tonight, the Fountain Avenue Phase 1, is a part of the action plan. The support of the Mulberry Springs proposed development as well as the Clifton Court are also in that action plan. So this is our statement to the community and also the federal government of how we're going to apply those dollars.
And as I recall, there's a good deal of emphasis on the engaged neighborhood as part of our submission.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. So we have already authorized by the city commission and also captured in the plan over $1.1 million of park investment. We're working to bring forth almost another $500,000 of park investment. That will take $900,000 of investment in Davie Moore within this entitlement year alone. We also will be putting out opportunities for the community to respond with proposals for small scale community centers within the engaged neighborhood, as well as open space enhancements within the area as well.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work, Shannon. Anyone else? Or call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes?
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
The next three items have been added to the agenda. The first two are first readings only. Authorizing the city to retain membership in the Ohio Benefits Cooperative Incorporated Regional Council of Government to participate in its OBC Medical Purchasing Cooperative, and authorizing the city manager, law director, director of finance, and personnel director to do all things necessary for compliance with OBC bylaws and the Jefferson Health Plan Agreement, all to provide medical and prescription drug coverage benefits for the city's employees, authorizing expenditures necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under the said bylaws and JHP agreement, authorizing a contribution to township in the amount of $200,000 for the purpose of repaving Air Park Drive, Greenfield Drive in Air Park, Ohio. The next item is an emergency ordinance for vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Energy Harbor LLC to provide electric energy for city streetlights for a term of 28 months for an amount not to exceed $800,000 for the 28th term, and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I'd like to ask the staff. In the past, when we've gotten most of our energy for our streetlight, Ohio Edison, what has changed or is changing that would prompt this ordinance?
Yeah, Commission, so we were contacted by Ohio Edison just last week in regards to their rates that are going up significantly June 1st. So they advised us that we should shop these rates for the streetlights. Obviously, streetlights are a large cost. We have over 7,000 streetlights within our jurisdiction. that we pay for, about almost $750,000 a year towards those streetlights to keep them functioning and operational, and that was going to go up an additional at least 250 under the new rates.
250,000.
Yeah, at least on top of what we already had. So they advised us that we should consider looking and shopping our rates, which thank you to our finance staff, our purchasing team, for diligently and quickly going out there and finding and shopping these rates so that we can save the taxpayer dollar.
Does this include maintenance of the streetlights also, or does that stay with Ohio?
Yeah, so the portion that's still under the ESIP program, which is the majority of them, remain under Ohio Edison's maintenance piece of it. So this is for the transmission of the electricity.
Thank you, and Katie, thank your department. Quick work on this. Wow.
Anyone else? Do we need to vote on anything here?
Yes.
Okay.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
That concludes the agenda item.
Are there questions or comments from commissioners? Anyone in the audience want to speak to us? Name and address for the record, please. There's a 3-minute limit.
Jeff Fontaine, 7551 Balfour Circle, Dublin, Ohio. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the commissioners, city staff. Multiple of you are in the audience here. It's been a long time as we've worked through a lot of nuances for the Melody Parks project. My name is Jeff Fontaine, as I mentioned, President of BOR. Despite a lot of the economic headwinds that have happened in the interest rate markets and everything else in the housing market, this step to get to this incentive agreement finalized is a huge step for us to continue to attract the right kind of end users and developers that we envisioned with this project from the get-go. And so we appreciate the support in that. We appreciate the continued efforts, and we're as excited as ever to continue moving this along with the help of the city. So thank you.
Thank
Jeff,
you.
while you're there, since you opened for comment, people do ask what's going on out there. How is
Sure.
it progressing? Obviously, we understand the economic headwinds, as you said, but
Mhm.
is there any, can you give us, how has this pushed your timeline back a little bit? I mean, you want to speak a little bit to what
Sure.
we can share with the community?
Sure thing. So we have delayed slightly. We are intending to do some infrastructure work and utility work earlier in the process, twofold. Obviously, we needed to get the incentive agreement finalized to be able to finalize how those public infrastructure dollars would be spent and put in. So now that that's in place, we can better lay out that plan. But additionally also, with the housing market having taken a slowdown the last 2 quarters just from national sales and home builders' interest with the impact of interest rates and what they would be able to support with new projects, that has slowed a little bit. That said, we have seen a great uptick in last quarter's performance from those home builders. We've seen a lot of our conversations that we've had continually going forward starting to pick up. The phones are ringing again, which is a good sign. Most of the conversations that we were having last year really got tabled prior to year end and kind of where everybody was in a waiting pattern to see what was going to happen. And I think, as a macro in the market, the housing market is much more ready to get started again. So we're optimistic with that. Our hope is still to begin this year with site work. We have done some proactive demolition that was going to need to happen to make that site more readily available to begin quicker. And so that is the work that you've seen done out there. And, our goal is within the next 6 months to have more infrastructure work going on out there.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to us? Last chance. Their motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr.